Okay, this is consecutive integers, which is 1.2. All right, 1.2. Remember, we have an NWA exam tomorrow, correct? It's not going to hurt your grade. Just do your best on it, correct? All right, and then you can turn this stuff in when you get done, all right, with your NWA exam. Okay, I'm going to do number 6 with you. Okay, number 6. It says this, the sum. I gave you this sheet right here yesterday, right? What does sum mean? Addition, right there. Correct? The sum of 3 consecutive integers. So sum of 3 consecutive integers is, what does is mean? Equal. Correct? Is 393. Find the integers. So what kind of integers are we dealing with here? 3 consecutive, aren't we? Correct? So when you're dealing with consecutive integers, okay, so the first one is going to be x. Now let's say, let me just give you a hypothetical here. Let's say I gave you one that was 35, 36, 37, I don't know, 38. Okay? First place, for them to be consecutive, it goes smallest to biggest, correct? Right? And there's none of them missing, and they're in order, aren't they? So that's consecutive. That's what consecutive means. So how do I go, if hypothetically, I'm just making this up, how would I go from the first or the smallest one to get to the next one? What are you going to do? I'm going to add 1 from the first one to get this one, yes or no? So the second consecutive integer is x plus 1. Okay? The third one, how do I go from here to here? What do I add? 2, correct? So this one here is 2 to get the third one. Now, why don't I do any more on this one here? This is number 6. Why don't I do any more? Because it's only, very good, it's only asking for 3, isn't it? Correct? Yes or no? So, now we go back to the problem. It says, the sum of these. So what did you say sum means? Addition, correct? So, x plus 1 plus x plus 2. Is means what? Equals. Okay? And then it equals, what was our sum going to equal? 393, is that correct? Okay, so when I grade your quiz next week, which you'll have a quiz, first I need to see a label. Labels when you state what the variables stand for, correct? Right? Second is an equation. I need to see an equation. Okay? Then I need to solve that equation, don't I? Agreed? So first, let's combine. Let's simplify here. What's x plus x plus x give me? 3x. And what's 1 plus 2 give me? So I combine these together, agreed? And then I combine these two together, agreed? So right now we really haven't solved. That's what we're doing, but we're really just simplifying, aren't we? We haven't done anything. When you start adding to both sides or dividing to both sides, that's when you're actually solving. Right now we're just simplifying, aren't we? Now we're ready to solve. So Chris, what would I do to solve this equation? I got to learn names. Mason? What would I do to solve this?
You would change the 3 to a negative.
I wouldn't change it. I would do what to both sides? Subtract 3 from both sides. And why do I do that? Is because these here cancel, don't they?
Yes, sir.
So I get 3x equals, what, 390? Is that correct? Does that look right to you guys?
Yes, sir.
And then what do I do next? Divide by 3. So then I get my calculator out and I get 130. Is that right? So 130, what does 130 represent? Yeah, x, but what's x represent? The first consecutive integer, doesn't it? Correct? It's the first consecutive integer. Now, how do we find the second one? X plus 1, right? So what's 130 plus 1 give me? 131. There's the second consecutive integer. And then how do I find the third? X plus 2, correct? So what's 130 plus 2? 132. So here we go. We have 130, 131, and then 132. There they are right there. Now we need to check them. So how do we go about checking them? Just add them all up, and do we get 393 when we get them in our calculator, when we add them all up? Does it check? Yeah. If I add those up, I better get 393, which it does. It checks. Okay, does that make sense? So Liam, are you writing this down? You are? Okay. I don't see a pencil in your hand. I'm just thinking, okay. Sorry I bothered you there. Okay, now look at number 7. I'll do 7 too. Number 7. Number 7 says this. The sum of 3 consecutive even integers is, that means equal to, doesn't it? Sum means add, doesn't it? Correct? Right? So we've got to first represent what 3 consecutive integers are, correct? So x is the first consecutive even integer. Agreed? How many of them did we say we had on number 7? 3 of them. How do we represent the next one? Well, let's think about it. Let's say we had 34, I'm just making these up, 38, 40, and so forth. So here's the first one, which is the smallest, isn't it? The first one's always the smallest. So how do I go from here to here? Add 2. Yes or no? So it's going to be x plus 2 is our second consecutive even integer. Okay? Now, how do I go from the smallest to get the third one? What do I add to this? 4. So the third one's going to be x plus 4. Third consecutive even integer. Okay? Makes sense. Now, we've labeled everything, what they represent, agreed? Now we got to do what? Write an equation, correct? So the sum of these, agreed? Of 3 consecutive even is 156. So x plus 2 plus x plus 4 equals, and it said the sum was equal to 156. So there's the equation. Okay? Now let's do some simplification. X plus X plus X gives me 3X, and 2 plus 4 gives me 6. Agreed? Okay? Now we're going to solve it, aren't we? Correct? So, Jaden, what would I do next?
You would subtract the 6 on both sides.
Perfect. Subtract 6. Okay? Now, did I show you this yesterday? Everybody look up here real quick. What's 1 plus 5 plus 0 give me? 6. So I know 3 is going to go into that number evenly, don't I? I mean, remember, that's called a divisibility test, right? If the digits add up to a multiple of 3, you know 3 goes into it. How many didn't know that? Yeah. I'm going to teach you some tricks in here that will help you a little bit. So what does that give me? 50? So what is 50? It's the first or the smallest even integer, correct? First consecutive even. Even integer. Then how do I get the next one's x plus 2? So it'd be 52, agreed? It's the second consecutive even integer, correct? And then the next one's x plus 4, which is what? What's 50 plus 4? 54 is the third consecutive even integer. So right now we have this, don't we? 50 and 52 and 54. Are they consecutive even? Is 50 the smallest one? And 54 is the largest one, isn't it? Now, do those add up? So I'm going to take 50 plus 52 plus 54 and see if I get what? 156? And I do. So it checks. And there you go. Okay, look at number 2. Kind of going backwards, but number 2 says this. The code to unlock the safety deposit box is 3 consecutive odd integers whose sum is 75. So this time we're dealing with consecutive what? Odd integers. So I'm going to let x be the first odd integer. Then let's do a hypothetical here. Let's say we have 23, 25, 27, 29, and so forth. Okay? So how do I go from the first to the second one? Add what? Add 2. So does everybody understand that consecutive even and consecutive odd are labeled the same way? Correct? Okay. And then what's the third one going to be? To go from here to here, what do I add? 4, correct? Okay. So then it says the sum, the code is the sum of 3 consecutive integers. So here I labeled, didn't I? Then I've got x plus 2 plus x plus 4 equals, and it said the sum is 75. Agreed? So there's our equation. And then now what do we do? We got to simplify, don't we? So x plus x plus x gives me what? 3x, agreed? And then I've got 2 plus 4 is what? 6. Now we're ready to solve it, aren't we? What am I going to do? Subtract 6? Agreed, then what am I going to do? Divide by 3. So I get x equals what? 23? Correct? So that's our first odd integer, isn't it? How do we get our second one? We add 2 to that. So what's that give me? 25, is that right? And then x plus 4 is my third one. And what's 23 plus 4? 27. So we ended up with 23, 25, and 27. Now to check them, they should add up to equal what? 75. And it does check. There's your check. Does that help now? Which two do you represent the same? Consecutive even and consecutive odd. Now you'll get different answers, right? You'll get, when you're dealing with consecutive odd, you'll get odd numbers. When you solve consecutive even, you'll get even numbers, won't you? Okay? All right, now look at number 9. Number 9. It says, if 3 times the smaller of 2 consecutive integers. So we're dealing with 2 consecutive integers, and the result you might put this in there too. The result is the same thing as equal to, isn't it? Correct? All right, so let's first write our 2 consecutive integers. So x is my first consecutive integer. And x plus 1 is my second consecutive integer. Why do I only do 2 this time? Because why? No one asked for 2 of them, correct? Right? All right, now here's where it gets tricky. And this is the smallest one, right? This is the smaller one. Because it always goes from biggest to smallest, right? And then this is the largest one. So this is what my math teacher taught me 50 years ago. Okay? Not 50 years ago, 45 years ago. Okay? Is write it down as you read it. Okay? So 3 times the smaller. So does everybody agree with me? 3 times the smaller would be 3x. Correct? Of 2 consecutive integers is added to 4 times the larger. So wouldn't that be 4 times x plus 1? 4 times the larger, the result is what? 137. So there's your equation. So 3 times the smaller plus 4 times the bigger or larger equals 137. This number 9 is as hard as one as I'd ever give you. That would be an extra credit problem on a test. Okay? Make sense? All right. So let me write it here for you. So we have 3x plus 4 times x plus 1. Mason, can you see this in the back? Josie, can you guys see this in the back?
Yeah.
All right. Is that okay? Neve, can you see it okay? All right. Asri, can you see it okay? Did I say it right, Asri? Okay. Okay, you guys all got such beautiful names. Donnie's not very beautiful. I have my niece calls me Donkey. I don't know if it has a literal meaning or something, but Uncle Donkey. All right. So, we labeled. We got an equation. Now what are we going to do? We're going to do some simplification, then we're going to solve, right? So what's the first thing we got to do here? When I've got parentheses, I have to distribute, don't I? Correct? So I'm going to distribute. So that gives me 3x plus 4x plus 4 equals 137. 4 times x is 4x, 4 times 1 is 4. Now what am I going to do? I need to simplify, don't I? So what's 3x plus 4x give me? 7x. You got 3 books plus 4 books is 7 books, right? Plus 4 equals 137. Now what am I going to do? Minus 4. So I get 7x equals 133. And then what's the next thing I do? Divide by 7. Hopefully it comes out. So I get x equals what? 19. Looks good to me. So what's 19? Is it your smallest one? Yep. And what's your largest one? 20, right? And what's it ask for in the equation? Solve for the what? Solve for the what? Smaller integer. So the smaller integer is what? 19. And you really can't check this one. I mean, you could plug it in for x up here into this equation and check it and see if you get 137. You will. Like if I check it, it would be 3 times 19, right? I'm plugging it in there, plus 4 times 19 plus 1 and see if I get 137. So that's what? 57 plus 80 equals 137. So it does check. Everybody see what I did there? I plugged it in right there for x. Is this getting a little easier or not? Okay, I'm going to do number 10 as well. 10 is another extra credit problem. Okay? It's extra credit. Okay, so 10 says this. If the first and third of 3 consecutive odd integers, correct? So we need to write 3 consecutive odd integers, don't we? As far as labeling, okay? So x is the first odd integer. How do I represent the second? How do I represent the second one, Trenton? How do I represent the second odd integer? 5x? Where are you getting 5x at? Hey, watch your language there, bud. Watch your language. Okay, look at the ones I've done already, and look at how you represent consecutive odd integers. So how do you represent the second one? There you go. Okay? And then, how many do they want this time? 3. So what's the next one going to be, Trenton? X plus 3? Think about it. If I had odd integers, I had 23, 25, 27. What do I add to go from here to here? How many? What'd you say? 4. There you go. you know, one of the things that my mom, bless her soul, desensitized to it because a lot of people do it. To me, it shows that you're not very well educated. That makes sense? That's my opinion. Okay, so we've got these labeled, don't we? Now, we're going to write an equation. And my teacher taught me 100 years ago to write it down as you read it. Okay? So, if the first and third of three consecutive integers are added, so the first is what? X. And the third is what? X plus what? 4, correct? Those two are added. Agreed? The result, so what's result mean? Equals, now here's where it gets tricky, 69 less than 5 times the second number. How do you represent 5 times the second number? Well, what's 5 times? Wouldn't it be this right here? Correct? And when it says less than, you're always going to subtract that last. That's the trick right there. Okay? Less than means subtract. You're not going to go 69 minus that. You're going to go this minus 69, and that's pretty tricky. Now, I'm doing this problem because have we done equations yet with the variable on both sides? No. So I'm going to show you this, which is a precursor to what we'll do on Monday where the variable's on both sides, okay? Yes or no? What's precursor mean? Getting you ready for it. At least you've seen it, correct? Okay, so we have it labeled. We have an equation. Okay? So, can we simplify anything over here? Can we combine any like terms? What's x plus x give me? 2x plus 4. Agreed? Correct? Now, can we add those two together? If you've got a variable and a constant, that thing is simplified, isn't it? There's no more to do. Up on this other side, we had two variables on that side, so we have to combine them together. So you know you have on one side of the equation simplified if there's just a variable and a number. Does that make sense? Now, what do we have to do on this other side? We have to distribute. Who said that? Very good. That's called the distributive property, right? So we get 5x plus 10. Agreed? And then minus, we bring the 69 down. Now, looking at the right side, is there just a variable and one number? There is. How many numbers are there, or constants? 2, which means I'm going to have to combine these two together, aren't I? Correct? So what's that give me? What's 10 minus 69? Did everybody get negative 59? If it's 10 degrees outside and you go down 69, you're going to be negative, aren't you? Correct? You understand? You are? Okay. All right, now, notice there's only a variable on this side and there's only a constant, right? So we know it's simplified. I like to do the variables first. I'm going to get all the variables on this side. So how do I get that 5x over here? What sign is the 5x? So I'm going to subtract. Agreed? Those cancel. Now what's 2x minus 5? It's 2 degrees outside and it goes down 3. Where are you going to be? Negative 3x, correct? And then I got plus 4. Now I brought the variables to this side. Now I'm going to bring the numbers over here. So how do I get that 4 to the other side? Subtract. This kind of looks like what we've been doing, doesn't it? So then I subtract 4 from both sides. Cancel, cancel. So I get negative 3x equals negative 63. And And then what do I do next? Divide by what? -3. So x equals a negative divided by a negative is what? Positive. So I should get 21. Agreed? Okay, so 21's my first one. What's my second one? What? 23, isn't it? How'd I get 23? Added 2. What's the next one? 25. There you go. Does this help now? Okay, so you should be able to turn these in tomorrow to me, and I'll check them after you get done with the